Want to learn how to get a business analyst job? What a business analyst job description is in the first place? Business analyst salary, business analyst interview questions, how to put together a business analyst resume, and overall how to become a business analyst. So what is a business analyst? So today we're going to talk about how to master active listening.
Please listen to me.
So in recent videos, I talked about the idea that I would come out with a deep dive on active listening, and here it is. The 8 main aspects of active listening. Aspect number 1 is paying attention. Are you paying attention? And the first part of paying attention is avoiding distraction, giving all your attention to the speaker, and not quote-unquote multitasking. If you've watched my other videos, you know how I feel about multitasking. I think it's a myth. You're not multitasking, you're single-tasking on the wrong task. You want to mentally prepare yourself to engage in the conversation, finish up any other tasks you have ongoing before you have this discussion with your prospective customer, colleague, what have you. If you have a deliverable due in the next 30 minutes, finish the deliverable first so you can get it off your mind before having this important conversation so that you can fully engage. And the second part of paying attention is using non-verbal cues, looking someone straight in the eye. Not all the time. You look away from time to time so as not to look like a serial killer, but you want to look people straight in the eye, give them nods of affirmation here and there to let them know that you're really listening. So I know that for me, you look at me now and I'm looking straight into the camera. It was a learned behavior for me. So I understand this doesn't come natural to everybody. I had to really practice. I'm not naturally good at looking people in the eyes, but as you practice from time to time, you start to understand the importance and how your communication is received when you do that. My natural inclination was to look at people's mouths when they spoke, because that's where the words are coming from, but it looks weird from the recipient's point of view, and so you definitely want to practice maintaining eye contact. Practice it with someone who's not your customer at first, maybe a colleague or a peer who's willing to help, but it's definitely a technique that will help get you further in life if you can master it. The second main aspect of active listening is paraphrasing and summarizing. So you want to tell the person with whom you're speaking, this is what I've heard you say, have I understood it clearly? Paraphrasing literally means restating the speaker's words and thoughts that you've heard in your own words and seeing if that makes sense to them and that was their intention. It allows the speaker to confirm and clarify their meaning, and then it allows you to move on to summarizing what you think they've heard. So summarizing provides a concise summary of all the points that you've heard them tell you, and it helps you to synthesize the information or process that information and gives the speaker an opportunity to correct anything that may have come across incorrectly. Main aspect number 3 for active listening is reflecting feelings, or this is otherwise known as empathizing, or trying to understand the situation from the point of view of the person with whom you're speaking. And you want to use feeling words and tell them that you understand how they're feeling. So, I can feel your frustration, or I can hear your excitement. Like that, to ensure that you're on the right track with what the person is trying to tell you. People respond better when they understand that you've not only gathered the information, but you understand what they're going through. This is going to happen a lot with your customers, especially those who are paying a lot of money for your solution. I've worked with customers on 6-figure deals, 7-figure deals, and even approaching 8-figure deals. And you have to understand that from your point of view, you're providing a solution that you've provided maybe dozens of times, but from their point of view, they're spending a large part of their quarterly or annual budget on a solution that's going to solve potentially a big business problem for them. And if the timeline is going astray or the budget is going astray, you need to show them that you can empathize and understand their feelings of frustration because of the large financial impact and potentially risk to their jobs if this doesn't go well. And conversely, we want to celebrate with our customers when they're excited. So if you're providing a solution that's going to be transformative to their organization and they're really excited about it, you don't want to kill that excitement or make it sound like you've done this dozens of times, because for them it may be the first time they've worked with you, and you want to take every opportunity to ensure that your customer is delighted. Keep this in mind as a business analyst. Every opportunity you have to delight your customers, you should jump on that and take advantage of it within the parameters of your role, because you're not always going to have those opportunities. There's going to be downtimes and times where project plans go awry. So you want to really maximize the positive times. So if you've stuck with me this far through the video, I hope you're getting some great value and want to be notified every time I drop the next piece of training in this series. Go ahead and subscribe to How to Be a Business Analyst below and click that bell button for all notifications. Once you've done that, drop me a comment in the comments below letting me know that you subscribed, and I'll go ahead and try to answer all of those comments personally. The item number 4 regarding active listening is asking clarifying questions, and that's broken up into 2 approaches. One is seeking clarification, and the other one is probing for details. So when we seek clarification, we ask open-ended questions to try to gain a deeper understanding of what the speaker's thoughts are, their ideas, their concerns. So your customer is not always complaining about something. Sometimes they have an idea about how a requirement can be accomplished better, especially if it's a return customer who you've worked with before on the solution and you're adding in an extra module this time. It may have a perspective that you've never thought of before. I brought this up on my other videos where we automate organization chart changes for our customers, and we typically do it at the lowest levels of the org chart because that's where the most number of changes happen. It's the greatest bang for the buck. But I had a particular customer who said, if we need to give you just those 2 lowest levels of the organization chart, we have to do a bunch of work to filter that out to give it to you. So although we'll pay a higher price to automate the whole organization chart, it's easier for us to get you the data, simple as that. And you have to be open to perspectives like that, because you could kill the deal if you stick to your guns on what you think is right without being open to other prospective positive approaches. So we want to definitely be open to other perspectives and see if they're possible to implement within the time and the budget of our projects. Conversely, you're going to have situations where customers suggest things that aren't possible or aren't feasible within these parameters. And you want to be able to push back on those too, but you can't unless you're asking clarifying questions and probing them for details on why their approach is the way it is. So in the example I gave, the customer ended up having a very good reason that really didn't hurt us in any way. And so we proceeded forward with it, even though it was a larger, more expensive project, because they were okay with it. It was within their budget. But we only know the reasoning because we probe for details. We ask specific questions to delve deeper into certain aspects of their message, and it helped us to uncover underlying issues or motivations that weren't initially expressed, because the initial expression was, we need to automate all levels of the organization chart. And to us, this sounded absurd. And so this is why we want to ask probing questions to understand the other person's point of view. Item number 5 about great active listening is practicing patience, avoiding interrupting our customers when they're speaking, and pausing before you respond. So let's take those 3 things together. People love to hear themselves talk, and this leads people often to interrupt people with whom they're speaking and not get the full message that's coming across. I find this happens to me many times in business. I've already concocted in my head a really concise way to get across what I want in one sentence, and the other party just won't let me get it out. You definitely do not want to make this impression on your customer. Let them speak until they're done speaking. As mentioned, they're often paying good money for the right to be able to speak about what their requirements are. And you want to practice patience and restraint. Resist the urge to interrupt them or interject with your own thoughts or opinions before you've heard the full story that will help you to properly formulate these thoughts and opinions. You want to allow the speaker to express themselves fully without interruption, ensuring that they feel heard and respected. You want to set up a situation where they feel like you genuinely care about what they have to say, and not interrupting a speaker gets this across in a good way. And this may include, if you're a senior business analyst or a manager like I am, it may include professionally and nicely getting others on your team to follow suit. So if someone on your team is interrupting the customer, you may, in a nice way, bring it back around, and without calling them out or blasting them in front of everybody, in a nice way, you could kind of say like, thank you, John, for that additional piece of information. That's great, but Bill, I think you had a little more to say on point A. Something like that. There's really smooth ways to do it that doesn't offend people, but gives your customer the inclination that you're very interested in what they had to say and want them to finish. And it's not just for customers either. This happened to me today several times. I use this technique on team members on my team as well to make them feel heard and make them feel appreciated if someone is interrupting them while they're trying to get their point across. And the other thing I would add to that is, it doesn't matter whether you think what they're saying is important or not, because one day something they say will be important and you'll miss it if you've been accustomed to interrupting. So get yourself in that habit of practicing patience, not interrupting speakers, and when the gems come over, you'll hear them. And then the other point again is pausing before responding. Resist the urge to respond right away. I know that people expect this, and many times when you pause, people will ask you, did you hear me, or do you have anything to say? And I think it's perfectly acceptable to say, I need a moment to really think about what you said and process it so that I can give you a meaningful response. And I think they'll really appreciate that if you come across that way, rather than blurting out something quickly just for the purpose of being fast. And I actually see this happening more and more as a trend in my interactions with colleagues and with customers, people pausing more often. And I think perhaps there's some great courses on active listening, some training like this one perhaps, that are getting people around to the idea that we're professionals and what we have to say is valued, so we should really think it through before we say it. Hey, so one more quick tip for you. If you're thinking, hey, I have a great career too where I can share all these insights on the internet, how do I do that? I have a couple great links for you in the description below. One is Make Money Matt, who teaches how to monetize your skills and abilities online better than almost anybody I've found. And the second one is Teachable, a platform where you can create your very own online courses. Check the links out in the description below. Item number 6 regarding active listening is displaying empathy. So we do this by understanding and validating the speaker's emotions. We acknowledge and validate their emotions. We don't skip right over them and go with just technical items. So if someone says, I feel frustrated, you don't want to respond with, I'll fix the metric for you. You don't respond to a feeling with a fact or a technical item. You want to acknowledge, I understand your frustration. Here are the reasons why I feel you're frustrated. Am I hearing this correctly? Reflect back on them, get them to confirm, ask probing questions, as we said earlier, and then move on with, here are a couple ways I think we can make that better. If we did such and such, do you think that might help alleviate your frustration a bit? You want to get the person with whom you're speaking to visualize a different reality and see if that works better for them, rather than talking to them about facts and figures when they're talking to you about feelings. And the other piece of empathizing is being non-judgmental. How dare you be frustrated about this after I've worked 6 months very hard to get this done for you? This is an approach you don't want to do with your customers or with your colleagues as a business analyst. It doesn't matter how hard you think you've worked for them. They're frustrated, and you're in a position to help them not be frustrated, or whatever the feeling is. They're excited, and you're in a position to help foster that excitement and celebrate that excitement. So you have to put away all your preconceived notions and judgment and come to them in a position of partnership in working together to make everybody happy and everybody get at least a portion of what they want out of the interaction. So it's sort of a negotiation in that way. You want everybody to come out feeling like they're a winner, or at least partially a winner. So as I go through providing all this detailed knowledge for you on this channel based on my years of experience, I didn't want all these videos scattered all around to get away from you, so I decided to create a mini course that provides a checklist of 10 essential skills any aspiring business analyst needs to know, and I decided to provide it to you for free. So check the description below on 10 essential skills any aspiring business analyst needs to know. Click that link in the description below and grab your free digital download. Enjoy. Item number 7 regarding active listening is avoiding distractions. So you want to find a quiet place, somewhere conducive to having positive, meaningful, value-add conversations, and away from noise and interruptions if you can help it at all. If you can lock your door and be isolated, maybe in a soundproof room or a room far away from others, that would be wonderful. And silence your phone, any of your gadgets or devices that you have that may make noise upon notification. You want to silence all of that, and don't look down at your phone, God forbid, if the screen pops up. You want to ensure that people know that you care what they have to say and you're giving them your undivided attention, and that starts with avoiding distractions. I like to close the blinds in my office. I don't want to see birds or chipmunks outside or anything like that. And again, keep the devices all turned off and silenced so that you can give the person with whom you're speaking, again, whether it's a colleague or a customer, your undivided attention and your best work. So item number 8 regarding active listening, something you need to keep in mind, and I told you if you got this far in the video, you might be a little bit surprised, and that's responding appropriately. So thus far, we've talked about reflecting back what we hear and sort of being a bit introspective, empathizing with feelings and things like that. But of course, toward the end of the discussion is the time to respond, and you need to respond appropriately. The way that you do that is you can use active verbal responses. So in addition to the head nodding that we talked about earlier, you can use phrases like go on, or tell me more, or why do you feel that way, or help me understand how you arrived at that conclusion. These sorts of open-ended phrases or sentences that get the speaker with whom you're speaking to open up more and speak more while you speak less is vital. The words are active listening, not active speaking, right? So the more you can get the other person to talk so that you can listen and absorb everything they're trying to get across, whether it's a requirement, a frustration, an excitement, or what have you, the better. So responding appropriately requires these active verbal responses that I mentioned earlier, and then reflective statements as well. So you want to offer thoughtful and reflective responses that, again, you've paused and taken time to think through before you respond, and you want to demonstrate your understanding of the speaker's message. This validates their perspective, it fosters a sense of trust and collaboration, and they'll be much more prone to work with you again in the future. And respect you as a professional. So in summary, active listening promotes effective communication, understanding, it builds rapport during difficult conversations as well as easy ones, and by actively engaging with the speaker and demonstrating empathy and understanding, you can create a more positive and productive dialogue. I hope that you've actively listened throughout this entire video, and I hope that you continue to actively listen when I provide a deep dive on how to deploy active listening effectively. I'll give you the top 16, count them, 16 ways to deploy active listening effectively that we didn't even touch on in this video. And don't forget to check the description below, where I'm now linking to my free digital download for all of you to download for free on the 11 essential skills an aspiring business analyst must know. Thanks again for joining me, and we'll catch you next time.